Hey guys, welcome to episode 4. We're going to make UI and particle effects for when the ball is moving and when it hits a goal. And we're going to set some score UI elements here. So first off, we're going to create... Oh, my UI, am I crashing? Nope, we're good. We're going to right click in the hierarchy. Well, first, hold on a second. I forgot to save. I'm going to save. Control S. We're going to right click, go down to UI. We're going to do text. The thing that's weird about UI text, you'd think it just shows up as like some small thing. No, it's huge. It's this big giant canvas here. So the game is right there, but the UI is this giant rectangle here, and the text is under it. So we're gonna want to move this up, and you can see it in the game view now. We're gonna move it. We're gonna hit T to have a custom scale. So T for the custom scale, you get these blue dots. We're gonna make it sort of a square shape. We're gonna drag that square to the corner, a little bit off there. And just so whenever it scales, it stays there, we're going to go to with the text selected, go to the top right, the rect transform. This square here, you want to click it, hold shift, and hit this one right here. So this binds the pivot point to the top left. Now we're going to modify this text. We're going to call this score. It doesn't matter what you call it because we're going to modify it later with code. Set the font size to maybe, say, 30. 30 is a good size. Let's change the color to something obvious. Let's just change it to the color, that bright green on top of gray so you can see it. And now we're going to hit text and Control D. Then we're going to move that. So we're going to move that to the other side, about the same area there. Yeah, that's about right. And then we're going to want to hit the rect transform, shift, and then hit this one right here while holding shift. That way the pivot point for this text is there. So for both of them, we're going to make sure, well, first this one should be aligned to the left, and this one should be aligned, if you click here, to the right. That way it doesn't overlap. Then we're going to center them, center the scores. That should be good. Then now just as a test, we're going to put a number. Just put 10 and 10 on both sides for score. Oops. Hold on a second. Sorry, my bad. On here. Ah, I see. I didn't center the text here. Yep, my bad. Okay. So, actually, this is better. My bad. So, when you click on your text, make sure it's centered, both in alignment in paragraph and center there. It's the same for this. That way it's right in the middle of the square when you have it like that. But still make sure the pivot point is in the top right for this one and top left for this one. Perfect. Now, we want to modify this text. But before we do that, we're going to set text. I set this to the player 1 text. We're going to set this text to the player, oopsie daisy, player 2 text. We're going to open up ball again. So we need some new variables now. Yeah, let's just put it under here. We're going to call it player 1 text. Oops, my bad. Public player. Again, my bad. Public text. Here, yeah, that should do it. Public text, player 1 text. Same thing for player 2. Public text, player 2 text. You're wondering why it's erroring now. That's just because we haven't actually used any UI elements. We haven't incorporated it into our code. So we're going to go up here where it says using Unity Engine, where it's using the Unity API, and just to be more specific, we're going to type using Unity Engine .ui. Make sure it's capital, semicolon. And now you can see we can actually use UI element stuff like text. So something I should have probably added before is that we want the player 1 score and to equal 0 at the beginning of the game when it starts. Same thing for player 2 score. This is more of a safety precaution just in case, something happens. But I just like to have it there. Mostly redundant, but it's up to you. Now, we constantly want to update the text that we have. We want it to constantly equal the value of the player score. Player 1 text should be equivalent to player 1 score. So that's what we constantly want to do it. So we're going to put that in the update. So we want player 1 text dot text. So we're modifying the text inside. You can modify a lot of things in it, but we're modifying what's actually written. We're going to do player 1 score, and since it's an integer and not a string, we're going to do dot to string, 2 parentheses, semicolon. The same thing, player 2 text dot text equals player 1 score dot to string, bam. And that should work, hopefully, if I'm right. Oh wait, we didn't actually incorporate it. You see these errors, null except reference exception. We didn't actually assign it. So we're going to click on ball, and then we're going to see how it's empty here. We're going to click and drag player 1 text into player 1 text, and then player 2 text into player 2 text. Now, if we play the game, it's 0 whenever you score. Uh-oh, something's wrong here. One moment, please. I see. My bad. Player 2 score right here. Control save. I had player 1 score to string, so it was setting it to the score of player 1 for the UI. Keep in mind the UI is not the actual score. The UI is just being set to the score. So now if we play it. So there we go. When it hits this wall, it should increase on here. And when it hits this wall, it increases here. Perfect. You can see that it's very similar, but once it starts moving, it does move randomly. Nice. Now, we want to make the ball look a little bit less boring. So, click ball and press F to focus in on it. We're going to create some particle effects. So for one, we're going to create a new script just because we don't want particle systems to stay on the screen and lag up the game. We're going to call it destroy. And basically what this is going to do is after a set amount of time, it will destroy an object. And we'll just attach this to all our particle effects. So we're going to want a public float. And we're going to call this destroy time. So how long it takes for it to destroy, we're going to say 2 seconds for now, and then we can set that later if you want. Basically, this is the initial amount when you attach this script, but once you modify it for that object, it's no longer the value. So, and then we're going to have a private variable float called temp. At the start of the game, temp is equal to destroy time. So in the update, we want this to happen right as it comes in. Temp, which is the value of destroy time, minus equals time dot delta time. So usually you would think, oh, why don't we just subtract the temp value by time? Well, if it's just time instead of time dot delta time, it's based on the performance of the computer. Delta time makes it so that it's less based on that. It's more based on actual frames and time. It's basically if a computer is lagging, or if a computer is maybe working more efficiently or has more frames, things will go faster or things will go slower. Delta time just kind of evens that out. Kind of hard to explain, but that's the gist of it. And we're going to make an if statement. If temp is less than or equal to 0, since this is a countdown, so once it hits 0, destroy game object. Game object being this game object. You can say this.game object, but game object refers to itself. Sure to save. I don't know why it's letting me not save. Save. There we go. Now we're going to create two new particle systems. We're going to go create. In the project view, I'm going to create a, where'd it go? Oh, my bad. Okay. So now we're going to create two new particle systems. One for the trail of the ball and one for once it hits the wall and explodes. So we're going to create two simple ones. We're going to first create when it hits the wall, create an effect. So right click on hierarchy, effects, particle system. So right now it looks like this. We want it to be an explosion though. So in the right here, particle systems, if you're curious about that, let me know and we can talk more about how to do particle systems. But until then, you're just going to kind of copy what I'm doing a little bit, but not that bad. So we want the duration of it to be 0.5. That way it's a bit shorter, because if it's 5 seconds, it goes a bit further later on, but that's not actually the case here. We want the start lifetime to be 0.5. That adjusts the size a bit. You can see there. We want the starting speed to be between two values. So what we're gonna do for the start speed, hit this drop down arrow here, random between two constants, and we're gonna make it 1 and 5. So you can see that each particle has a random between 1 and 5, so they're not all going at the same speed. Makes things look a bit more random. We're going to make the start size random too, between two constants. We're going to do 0.3 and 1. That way you can see it looks a bit different, not all the same. That should be good. We're going to go down to emissions. We're going to make the rate over time 5. It's a little bit small, but that's not going to be a problem once we add in these bursts, right? We're going to add these bursts. You can see it's bursting now. So this is what the explosions will kind of look like. If I were to stop it from looping, I hit play. Looks like that right now. Once it hits the wall, it'll spawn that. So it looks like, see? Nice. We're going to set it back to looping again. That way we can actually see it. What we have by default should be fine. We're going to go down to shape, and we're going to change the shape to hemisphere. So it looks more like an explosion. That's fine there. We're going to go down to, now we're going to go down to color over, oopsie daisy, color over lifetime. So now we're going to click here in this white bar, and it brings up this menu. So what we want it to do is we want it to change color, and we also want it to fade out. So we're going to click on the top here, create a new value. Click on the bottom to create a new color value. The top values affects transparency and opacity. The bottom affects color. So we want to start off, let's just say, oopsie daisy. Click on this arrow here, make the color a bright green to fit the color of the game. Then over here, actually, you know what? We're going to make this white. We're going to make this bright green. Oh, why didn't it work? Click on here. Yeah, okay. Click on here. Make this bright green. See? Now it turns green. You can experiment with whatever color you want. This is what I'm going with. Now at the top right here, first let's move this down here more fast. We're going to click on this top right arrow here, change the alpha to 0. You can see it fades out now. Again, you can adjust the colors to whatever you want. Adjust it here so it fades a bit better. That looks about right. And that should be good for our effect. So now we want to create a prefab of this. So now turn off looping. That's important. Now if you hit play, a little explosion. We're going to name this particle system ball death. Actually, no, let's call it goal effect. So now, say we want to use this effect on another level, or we want to easily click and drag it out into the screen so we don't have to keep making it over and over again. What we're going to do is we're going to click on the hierarchy, click and drag into the project view, and now you have a prefab of it that you can just click and drag. So if we were to delete this, we wouldn't need to make it again, because goal effect, you just bring it in and it's back again. See? So that's what we're going to do. It's important too because we want a public game object later that we can assign, and this will be that game object for it to spawn. So essentially what we're doing is once the ball hits the wall, it will spawn a game object, that game object being that particle effect we just made, and the script that we need to attach now, destroy, will destroy it after a certain while. Otherwise, it will stay there dormant, not doing anything, but just taking up performance. So make sure that the destroy time, the destroy time is 2. We're good. Now we got to go back into the ball script. So we need a few, not a few, but like a couple variables. So we're going to do a public game object. So something that we're going to assign as game object. Goal effect. Right? Now, if statement, once it hits a west or east wall, it will. We want to make sure it's below the score and above the transform dot position. Otherwise, it will move to the spawn point that we set, and it will spawn the effect there. If you want that effect, like it's spawning in with the explosion, put it underneath, but I don't want to do that. So we're going to do instantiate. What instantiating is spawning something in, essentially. Goal effect, which is the name of the game object, which will be our particle effect. This dot transform dot position, so the position of the ball. And then we need, it's asking for a rotation now, and we're going to do quaternion dot identity. That's not important to learn, but essentially it just means no rotation in relation to the world. If it was explained to me right, but that's how I know it. We're going to copy and paste the same exact thing there for east wall. So now we need to go to the ball, and we're going to drag goal effect. Goal effect into the goal effect public game object variable we declared. So now, bang, see there. When it hits the wall, it explodes a bit. Bang. See? We can adjust it however much we want. Actually, you know what? I'm going to adjust it a little bit. So we're going to drag this out here so I can see what changes I'm making. So click on goal effect here. And we want to set the shape to a sphere. I had it as hemisphere before, but sphere is probably better. So that way it looks more like an explosion no matter what, instead of some accidental rotation. Sounds good. We can delete this now, the goal effect. Now if we look at it again, that looks much better, instead of just a half hemisphere type thing. So you can adjust the particle system to your liking if you want to look more into it, but this is what we have so far. And finally, we want to make a trail. So we're going to right click on the ball. We'll make sure you have it selected, right click, and then we go to effect and then particle system, right? So the duration is fine. We want it to loop because we want it to be constant. We're going to make it so that the start lifetime is 0.25. We want it the start size to be between 1 and 0.5. can also change the start speed a bit. Yeah, we're going to change that. Change it between 5 and, say, 7. Maybe 10. Try 10. No, let's see 5 and 10. Yep. That can be adjusted later. We're going to change the start colors. We're going to do it between 2 random colors. We're going to do, say, green, a bright green, then maybe a darker green. Looks more like a flame almost, a green flame. Now this is important, simulation space. We want it to be world. With local, let me just show what that does. If I move the ball, if we play it now, when it's local, the effect will be just on the ball, not actually moving based off the world. But if we set it to world, it will move in a way that physics affects it. So see that it moves kind of like in the direction of where it's going. instead of just a stationary fire, which looks really weird. So for emissions, we're going to set the emissions, if we just play it again so I can see it. We're going to set the emissions to, the rate will be 100. So that way now it really looks like a fire, which is really cool. The shape, we want it to be a sphere. See, now it looks like it's kind of crackling with energy, which is really cool. Set the radius to 0.01, that way it's more compact, makes things look a little bit better. And then color over lifetime, we want to make it so that it fades out after a little bit. So we're going to click on the top so we can set it transparency keyframe here. Click here, make sure the alpha is 0. So that way you can see it kind of fades out around the end there. Should be good. With that, that should be enough. We're going to name this particle system ball flame. That should be good. So now, kind of looks like a shooting star going around, and it makes things look more interesting. Fun for the whole family. So, if there's any problems with the game, if you find any bugs, just let me know, and I'll be sure to sort it out. Ooh, that was odd. But other than that, this has been Pong. So, if you have any questions, be sure to let me know on the Discord or in the YouTube comments. But other than that, thank you for watching. See you later.